Story 1: The Lost Camper's Final Record. Mark Thompson was an experienced hiker who enjoyed venturing into the wilderness. One autumn weekend, he decided to take a solo camping trip in the remote woods of the Rocky Mountains. He documented his entire journey, capturing the serene beauty of the forest, the challenging hikes, and his encounters with wildlife. But his last recordings, found on a battered camera deep in the woods, revealed a terrifying encounter that would be his final moments. Mark set up his camp in a secluded area near a crystal-clear stream. The first few days went by without incident, and his footage showed a man at peace, enjoying nature. On the third night, however, the tone of his videos changed. Mark's voice, once calm, now carried a hint of unease. He mentioned hearing strange noises outside his tent footsteps, though he was miles from any known trails. Brushing it off as an animal, he tried to sleep. The next day's footage showed Mark looking tired and on edge. He spoke to the camera about the previous night's disturbances, saying he felt like he was being watched. Determined to shake off the paranoia, he continued his hike, but as the day wore on, the sense of being followed grew stronger. His camera captured what appeared to be fleeting shadows moving through the trees, though nothing concrete could be seen. That night, the noises returned, louder and closer. The footage showed Mark holding the camera in the dark, his voice trembling as he described the sound of something or someone circling his tent. He tried to peer outside but saw nothing. The final clip showed Mark packing up in a hurry at dawn, deciding to cut his trip short. He planned to head back to his car and leave the forest behind. As Mark hiked back, the recordings became increasingly erratic. He repeatedly looked over his shoulder, the camera shaking in his hand. At one point he whispered to himself, "It's getting closer. I can't outrun it." The last video was the most disturbing. It showed Mark running through the dense forest, the camera swinging wildly. He was panting, gasping for breath, as something moved rapidly through the trees behind him. The footage ended abruptly with Mark turning the camera towards his pursuer, a tall, shadowy figure, faceless and menacing. Mark's body was never found. The camera was discovered months later by another group of hikers. Authorities reviewed the footage but were unable to explain the strange events. To this day, Mark's disappearance remains a mystery, but the final moments captured on his camera serve as a chilling reminder of the dangers that lurk in the wilderness, waiting for those who dare to venture too far. Story 2: The Haunted Asylum Exploration. In 2018, a group of urban explorers set out to document their visit to an abandoned psychiatric asylum known for its dark past. The asylum, located deep in the rural South, had been closed for decades following numerous reports of mistreatment, mysterious deaths, and whispers of paranormal activity. The group consisted of three friends, Danny, Chris, and Lauren, who were seasoned explorers with a passion for uncovering the unknown. Their journey began like any other, with the trio filming their entrance into the decrepit building, laughing and joking as they navigated the dusty halls. The footage, recovered from Chris's camera after they went missing, started off as a typical exploration video showing dilapidated rooms, old medical equipment, and eerie graffiti covering the walls. But as they ventured deeper into the asylum, the atmosphere grew tense. The first sign of trouble came when they entered the basement, a maze of tunnels and treatment rooms where the most disturbed patients had been kept. The air was thick with an unshakable sense of dread, and the camera captured strange noises, whispers, faint cries, and the distant sound of something being dragged along the floor. Chris, holding the camera, tried to lighten the mood, but his nervous laughter echoed hollowly in the oppressive silence. In one of the tunnels, they found a room that was not on any of the blueprints they had studied. The door was heavy, metal, and rusted shut, but with some effort, they managed to force it open. Inside, the walls were covered in strange symbols, and the air was unnaturally cold. A small, broken-down bed sat in the center, with chains hanging from the ceiling above it. The group fell silent as they took in the sight, a palpable fear settling over them. The last few minutes of footage were chaotic. The camera shook violently as Chris began to panic. The whispers grew louder, now clearly coming from all around them. The footage showed Danny and Lauren trying to leave the room, but the door had somehow locked itself. The camera captured their desperate attempts to force it open as the symbols on the walls seemed to pulse with a sinister energy. The final moments of the footage were pure terror. The whispers escalated into screams, and the room shook as if something was trying to break through the walls. Chris's camera fell to the floor, capturing only fragments of what happened next. A flash of light, Danny screaming, Lauren's terrified cries, and then silence. When authorities eventually searched the asylum, they found no trace of the three friends. The only evidence of their visit was Chris's camera, left behind in the basement room. The footage, though heavily scrutinized, provided no answers, only more questions about what truly happened that night in the haunted asylum. Story 3: The Last Journey of the Mountain Climbers. In the winter of 2016, a group of 4 experienced mountain climbers embarked on an expedition to reach the summit of one of the most treacherous peaks in the world. Their journey was meticulously planned, with each climber documenting their progress through cameras mounted on their helmets. The footage, later found by rescue teams, revealed the harrowing final days of their expedition, a descent into madness and terror that none of them would survive. The group consisted of Alex, the leader Sarah, the medic James, the navigator and Emily, the youngest and most ambitious of the group. The first few days of footage showed the climbers in high spirits, despite the brutal cold and challenging terrain. They laughed and encouraged each other as they made their way up the mountain, their breath visible in the frigid air. But as they neared the summit, something changed. The weather, already harsh, took a turn for the worse. A blizzard set in, reducing visibility to nearly zero and forcing the group to take shelter in a small cave they found along the way. The footage from inside the cave showed them huddled together, shivering and anxious. Alex tried to keep morale high, but it was clear that the situation was dire. The following day, the storm worsened, and they were forced to stay in the cave. The isolation and cold began to take their toll. Sarah, always the calm one, started speaking of strange dreams. She had dreams of being watched by unseen eyes. Emily's footage showed her quietly confiding in the camera that she felt like they weren't alone on the mountain. The third night was when things truly took a dark turn. The footage showed the group trying to sleep, but strange noises could be heard outside the cave, low, guttural sounds that none of them could identify. Alex tried to brush it off as the wind, but the fear was evident in his voice. The camera captured them all staring at the entrance of the cave, waiting for something to happen. The last recordings were frantic. The camera showed Alex waking up to find the cave entrance blocked by snow, trapping them inside. As they tried to dig their way out, the strange noises grew louder, closer, as if something was moving just outside the walls of their icy prison. Panic set in, and the group turned on each other, accusing one another of leading them to their deaths. In the final moments, Emily's camera captured a brief glimpse of what lay outside. The cave entrance had been cleared, but instead of the open snowfield they expected, they saw a figure standing in the storm, a tall, dark shape with glowing eyes. The footage ended abruptly as the camera fell, and all that could be heard was the howling wind and the terrified screams of the climbers. When the rescue team arrived weeks later, they found the cave empty, with no signs of the climbers or what had happened to them. The footage recovered from their cameras was the only clue, but it only deepened the mystery. To this day, the disappearance of the mountain climbers remains unsolved, their final moments lost to the frozen wilderness.